Hello and welcome to Take Your School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me, of course, star of the show, the former WWE World Tag Team Champion, 8-time Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team Champion, one of the greatest trainers ever in the history of the business, the Doctor of Desire himself, Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
Done, John. I'm doing great today. I'm always doing great on a Wednesday night.
Why always
That, that's
great on a
that's all I
Wednesday
got. That's all I got for you.
night?
You know, I hate when people that. So how are you doing? Well, fine.
Oh.
What else am I supposed to say? So it's the other thing is like, how are you doing? Then I really tell you, like, my neck's killing me, my back hurts, and nobody wants to hear that. Everybody wants to be up, upbeat and happy, and I am. And I knew it was coming.
Ibsen,
Isbin's, or
yes,
yes, I knew. I
yes.
was hoping it was coming. So
Ibsen is the man.
yes,
It's funny. I have a friend of mine who you would think like, "Hey, man, what's going on? How you doing?" He's like, "Man, I feel like shit. Man,
yeah,
I'm so tired. Man, I need a nap." Like he
right.
does the exact opposite of what you would think somebody would
Well,
say.
I used to give a weather report on Knoxville, and I don't think anybody really cares if Knoxville's hot, cold, or whatever that night. And I take a very cynical view sometimes of podcasts when nobody really knows what they're talking about, but they think they do. Not everybody, but a lot of people. So
Good
I know
evening,
that
everyone.
I don't know what I'm talking about. Is what I'm trying to say. I'm not knocking everybody else. I'm backhandedly knocking me. So
You
there.
are you mimicking Soraya, aka Paige? Because she seemed to
No.
be saying that today for some reason.
Oh no, I have not heard about that, but it makes
Oh,
perfect sense because she understands, I think, that probably uh we can't do anything about anything else except just be happy. And if you don't like the way I'm doing this daggum podcast, well then you can just kiss my rear butt. How about that? That's kind of what I'm saying is I'm tired of trying to impress anybody else but myself. You can't please everybody, so you gotta please yourself. There's a great song in there somewhere with Ricky Nelson. I'm just saying.
hello, Barbara, and hello, Maddie R. Hello, guys.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, she did also take a little bit of a shot at Jim Cornette for kind of, I wouldn't say no reason, but
So
I guess
what's going on? What's going
he had
on with
mentioned her.
Paige? Yeah, what's happening? Why is she?
Well, because she debuted for AEW, she screwed
Uh
up on her promo. It was like, she said she was rusty. Yeah, you give her a pass, but she was a little off on the promo. So I
Okay,
guess
let me.
Cornette must have made fun of her too
I know,
about it.
but can I ask you how she was off? What would you consider off? What was Cornette talking about her being off?
She repeated herself,
Uh huh.
and then she said something that didn't make sense. She said, "They're the revolution. I'm the revolution. You're the like." She screwed up her words. She meant to say something else.
Right. Well, I think here's a win-win for me. As long as she kept on talking, as long as there was no dead air time. But I also think, and I wanted to get into that because we just did promos tonight, and promos are so important for everybody to learn and to have and ready to go. We don't always have that, and when you don't have that, you have to have something else, and that better be the gift to just keep saying something, no matter if it makes sense or not. And you got to keep rolling. And I may not know that we're going to eat cornflakes later on tonight, and all this other stuff. It doesn't matter. They'll say, "Oh, she screwed that up. She screwed that up." But I think in the delivery, if everybody would understand how to relax, and that just takes time. And she probably was rusty, and cutting promos are I think harder today because it is a TV industry, and you're not just doing it in the house shows, and you have to know what you're saying on TV for time's sake too. So you do have to have your bullet points and know how to fill in the rest. I think I didn't see it, but I can understand because I would relate a promo to someone in class, like when they're standing up in front of the camera. They'll cut their promo, then I'll give it back to them the way I would do it. And I'm thinking, I can do their stuff better than I can do my stuff. You know what I mean? If Paige is sitting there talking about her or what she's trying to get across, sometimes it's easier to talk about to do it third person. Or I know what I'm trying to say, but I can't even say it right now too. So I'm sucking at my promos. But
Hello,
that's
Jason.
Jason. Yeah, but that's a real important thing to get down. I think once she gets to. Did we just black out there?
For 1 second, yeah, I was like, "What the hell just happened there?" Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a
look at that.
conspiracy. I think it's a conspiracy.
They
Somebody's out.
weren't liking your promo. Somebody
Thank you
out there
very
wasn't like,
much. Yeah,
yeah.
that's okay. Anyway,
Ibsen wants to know, did Corny ever help you with your promos, or did you fix mistakes with time?
Cornette helped me all the time with promos, but I think he helped me because he cut the promos. It was his job. He let us talk, uh, but I think by that stage of the game, he was comfortable with what either Stan or myself or Jimmy would say. But most of the time, it was him doing the talking. And when I was doing promos, I did fix some mistakes with time and I got more comfortable at it. And I think that's the key is just being comfortable, relaxed, and telling a story authentically and not getting so caught up in the bullet points to where you're just reciting words. And anyway, I think that I don't know if that can be taught, but you have to have some kind of feeling for it.
What advice did Cornette ever share with you in the car? What can you apply with your students?
I don't know that Jim ever really shared advice. I think it was just watching him do what he did. And I think being meticulous and being detail oriented was one of the keys that I observed because he would have notes, but I observed his attention to the little things, the reason why you're doing something, and it had to have some kind of logical order to it and mean something. And I knew that before, but actually getting to follow along, whatever 9 pages, and get the gist of it is an art form to where it's got to be authentic, but you have to have a plan. If it doesn't go exactly to plan, know how to improvise. And that was the great thing about Jim is he knew that we could improvise and knew he had an idea. He knew where he was going and how it had to lay out. So that's what I got from him. But he's one of those guys. He learned from Bill Watts, who learned from other people, who learned from other people, who learned from, and that's the way you do it. Just learning from people. So
Speaking of Jim Cornette and Heavenly Bodies, Megamouth Spike. I watched the Heavenly Bodies wrestle at the Cincinnati Gardens. Does Dr. Tom have any memories of working in Cincinnati?
I liked Cincinnati. I really did. And when HWA was located in Cincinnati, I was making regular trips there. But I don't know if I don't really have any stories from Cincinnati, and I could sure make one up, but then that would be
Well,
making up.
isn't your good buddy Mr. HWA, Mr. Cincinnati? Les Tech?
Yes, Les. Yeah, I always loved going to see Les on HWA. It was there was times he was running a place called the Red Barn, and I went to a couple live events there too. And I liked Cincinnati. It was just I really did. I liked it. Had a good time there. I don't have any in particular memories such as Tracy Smothers, grappling the gravel type stuff. But I stayed at a Holiday Inn once.
Were you going to Cincinnati a lot or no?
Yeah, I was going every month, I believe it was, because I would go for a week, 2 days in Louisville, 2 days in Cincinnati, and then fly out on Friday. So, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and fly out on Friday. Yeah, that's it. So, I was there quite a bit.
What were you doing? Like, what were your duties?
I was in talent relations. I was overlooking the developmental system at that time, and they had Les, I believe it was Cody Hawk, training the guys in Cincinnati. Then you had Rip Rogers, Danny Davis training the guys in Louisville. So I would fly into Louisville usually for that Monday morning. Danny would pick me up. We'd go to OVW, check out that day of practice, stay over and watch the next day of practice, talk to the guys. They would have matches, and we would just do the drills and basically getting an eye on what they're doing. Then that Wednesday or Tuesday night, I would usually drive to Cincinnati and watch Wednesday and Thursday practice. So I was I was there to look at see see where they were progressing at, how they were progressing.
Is there one system you thought was better than another, or did you kind of say, "Hey, they're running things better here than over here"?
I thought OVW did a hell of a job. They were in my opinion, they were one of the best due to these reasons. It wasn't just in the ring, and it was outside the ring. It was learning the details that everybody needed to know and studying. Jimmy had at that time VHS, and I think he later converted to DVDs, obviously, but VHS cassettes of various things these guys needed to know: heat, tag team stuff, individual tapes loaded with it. There was one on there with the riot with Ox Baker and Ernie Ladd, Johnny Powers, and I don't remember who Baker or Ernie's partner was, but the riot. And there were just various elements that Jimmy had on these VHSs. And everybody, whenever anybody new showed up, every recruit, every trainee got these tapes, and they were to study. And then the training was, I watched the training. I thought Rip did a hell of a job training, and Jimmy did a hell of a job on commentary and telling stories and laying out the storyline. And Danny did a hell of a job on coaching and being the senior guy in that company. And I thought it was ran great. I really and I thought HWA was ran great, but OVW was certainly one of the best developmentals that WWE had.
They were pretty efficient at getting big guys that would eventually become huge stars. You know what I mean? Like the Cenas of the world, the Batista of the world. That was kind of the OVW factory for a while.
Yeah, and no one really knows or understands unless you're right there what it takes to do that. In the beginning, OVW was in a rundown, dilapidated warehouse area, and for nothing a month, Danny was able to run shows there. But Danny got in on the coach. Danny Davis got in on the coaching into wrestling early. Well, he was one of the first ones around that area, and so he was renting this building for real cheap and had a wrestling school. So when we started the developmental in Stamford, when Jim Cornette was up there, he had an idea to bring it to Louisville, and laid it out to JR, laid it out to Vince. They agreed. So they went and worked in that small building, with busted out windows and all this other stuff. And where it wasn't all glitz and glamour is my point. It was a dirty, filthy wrestling training gym where you learned. And if you loved the business, especially, you would embrace it. And if you didn't love the business, you didn't belong there anyway, and maybe you would go away. That's the way I looked at it. And I think, I don't know that you can find people who have that passion so much. And that's what you needed for wrestling back then, is you'd had to have passion and would go do anything. That's part of whatever it takes, working in this small building. Cena did it. Shelton did it. Brock did it. Batista did it. So, I mean, these guys are working their ass off, sweating their ass off, and freezing their ass off in this little shithole building. But they're there because they have passion for what they're doing, and they're putting in the work, and you had other guys that are putting in the work, the Bashams, good gosh, a whole lot of people that were there during that time. And then when it got to be even bigger, or, decided that it was time to expand, that's when they found the now in existence Davis Arena. But the quality of coaching, the quality of teaching and training, I think, followed them there, until it didn't, until they decided to pull out. So I thought, but overall, bottom line, OVW was a pretty damn good developmental system, I think.
Maybe the original developmental system. Some people say USWA. Ibsen wants to know who has the footage of your matches in the USWA. Is it WWF? What sticks out?
Of what sticks out in the
USWA.
oh, okay. Well, my last run, especially in Memphis, was the best, and I thought probably the most fun. Because I had been in Memphis a few times when it really wasn't a lot of fun, and it just didn't click. But the last run, I think in the late '80s is when Jeff Jarrett was there, and first time I got to work with Jeff, and he was incredible too. Hell of a worker, and uh, that sticks out. Working with Jeff, working with the Moondogs. Memphis was, if you've seen the territory thing, very gimmicky, and you understood that. And the first few times I was kind of in the gimmicky and stuff, but the last run I had, I finally understood a little more how to get along. And I was trying I mean, Brian Christopher too. Also, I worked with him in a few really good matches. So, and Brian, here's a Brian Christopher story. Uh, he wasn't sure what to think or what to do. I think he was paranoid because he didn't want to get any heat, or didn't he didn't know how to carry himself yet. But the first time I was going to work with him was in Louisville, Kentucky. And somebody came up to me and said, "Kick that little son bitch's ass. He's an asshole." So why? So he's just a little dickhead. Fuck with him. So I thought, okay, I'm going to pull Brian aside. I took him out in the hall and said, "Look, nobody wants to work with you. Nobody likes you. Please just listen to me, and I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to put you where you need to be, but you got to trust me." Because we had worked before, and he was rushing, and I told him to slow down. Anyway, he looked at me stunned that I told him nobody liked him and nobody wanted to work with him. So we went out there, and he listened to me, and he relaxed, and he saw the difference. He saw, I'm not going to eat him up. I'm going to sell. He's going to sell. We'll make it work if you just relax. And he did. So that kind of stood out too, because later on when I saw him, he had mentioned that too. So
You helped him along, maybe more so than even his own dad, maybe.
well, I don't know. But
You
his
gave him some good
brother,
advice.
well, maybe. But his brother told me that that stood out for him too. So, uh, I mean, I get it, and I wish that model still existed for a lot of people, but it doesn't. And because I really think that's how you learn when somebody takes you aside and you don't know you're making mistakes. Too many people are making mistakes today that they don't even understand why it's a mistake or why it's inappropriate. But I also think there's a lot of people who don't know why, on the other side, why it's inappropriate and why you should say something, why you should intervene and say, "Look, you're messing up and it's not going to help you down the road. Let me help you right here so we'll get past this and show everybody that you can work." So,
Had some questions coming in there, a little random questions. I will get to them in a little bit. But since we were talking about Memphis and since Tales of the Territory is hitting off and doing good things on Vice TV, their focus for the last 2 weeks was on Memphis. They had a bunch of good stories the first week. Second week was a big focus on Andy Kaufman, who I wanted to talk about today. Now, I didn't know this. You mentioned this to me before. You were kind of there when Kaufman, like you came in when Kaufman was still floating around.
yeah, he was mainly doing tag matches with against Jimmy Hart. He and Jimmy Hart had broke off into doing their angle afterwards.
Yep.
My first night in Memphis on my first run was at the Mid South Coliseum in Memphis, and it was Lawler versus Dundee in the main event. Loser leave town, and you had the baby faces on ringside, front row ringside, and the heels on the other front row ringside, and the Coliseum was packed. This is in the heyday of the Fabs. Rock and Roll was there, but the Fabs were the top team, and Lawler and Dundee were having this big blow off. And Andy Kaufman was still around. This was after the pile driver, but Andy was still around doing the matches with Jimmy. So yeah, he I never talked to him. He was his own doing his own thing anyway. But you did see him in the locker room, and there was that look on his face that you knew he loved being there. But he was very respectful. Uh, and going back and watching his performance, what he did. See, I like that kind of stuff because he made people uncomfortable. And that's what wrestling used to be is the unpredictability and the uncomfortable feeling. And if you watch the first territories thing, they said Memphis did a lot of realism, and they did. It was that kind of place. And that's why Kaufman fit in so good, because he was authentic, and people didn't know if he was shooting, working, shooting. Nobody knows what a shooting or work is either anymore, but he was believing what he was doing, and that was played right into what Memphis was. So, not it. He wasn't everybody's cup of tea. That's for sure. He got voted off Saturday Night Live. He uh, did some, Chief Cook. It was real. Andy did. He ate ice cream in one of his acts in California. He went on stage and asked the waitress for a menu, and so I'll order some ice cream, and ate the ice cream. And then that was his act. He got fired for that. Well, that's not everybody's sense of humor, because that's not very funny. That's what the hell is wrong with this guy? He'd bring his family on stage, have his grandma tell a horrible joke, have his brother and him do a duet singing, and people going, "Oh, gee, what is this? Amateur hour? What the hell is it?" They had no clue, but they're all going. And then Andy slowly apologizes, start crying, then he plays the bongo, and then he blows everybody away with his talent. And everybody thought he was off his rocker. He was crazy.
Nuts. Yeah,
Yeah, he's nuts. He's nuts. But yeah, he was nuts. But he was doing it to make you feel like, oh my God, what's going on here? My Breakfast with Blassie. You ever seen that?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Okay. So I mean, at a Sambo's in Hollywood, Sambo's in Hollywood, and it's like a Denny's, but Blassie's messing with the waitress, and you couldn't do that today, and nobody would know how to do that today. The snot hanging out his nose and all that shit, and that was his sense of humor, and to get people, But I think he got booked on these shows because he really had talent, and he could be Elvis, and he could sing a little bit, and he could play guitar, he could play the bongos. So he had something to offer that people knew was authentic. So when he went off in this crazy world, they didn't know which was which. But how could you not? So it's the way I looked at it. And him being the alter ego, Tony Clifton.
Yeah.
And he's working with. I saw the Dinah Shore show. I had to YouTube it because he talks about it in these bits that I've looked up. He's nobody knows what to think. They don't get it because everybody's supposed to be so straight laced and polite and all this other stuff. And it was good putting those people in uncomfortable positions, because then everybody's kind of laughing even more. It's kind of like Borat. He was a early day Borat type guy. And I thought, gosh, people bought into it on Letterman, and people bought into it at the Mid-South Coliseum. And, nobody knew if Andy really was nuts or not. If he's poking the bear, if he's poking Lawler, if he's making fun of it, and he's making a mockery of it, because he would talk like that even off camera to people who they think now he's really talking to me one-on-one. We're being real here. No, Andy's always working. And that was a thing the wrestlers were doing too. So if you're always working, then you're living to work. That's what I think.
Barbara wants to know, what did other wrestlers make of Andy Kaufman when he was doing his thing? What did they think of him?
I don't really know, but I do know that when Lawler and he were in the same place, they did kayfabe in the locker room. Like I didn't see them conversing. I just remember, especially Andy having one locker room in the mid on one hallway would be Lawler, the other hallway, the next hallway over would be Kaufman in his own little room, and they wouldn't really converse. Didn't have cell phones back then either, so they probably already knew what they were going to do. Just to have fun, just to keep it up. Just why wouldn't you?
Kaufman had good mic skills, brought himself a lot of heat.
He knew what was going to get people mad, but he was also I want to say he was doing it knowing tongue in cheek, because when he came on Letterman, he says, I was just playing bad guy wrestler. See, he would revert back to that mode at the same time, never really saying anything else about the promo over here that got Lawler pissed off and go, hey, man, I was just being a bad guy wrestler. And you would think, oh, he's being honest now. He's telling you, hey, it's all just a game. And Lawler's going, no, I don't. And Lawler's playing straight, man. Then when he actually hit him and knocked the hell out of him, who in their right mind would just sit there and take a shot? Who said he's in his right mind?
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's what made it authentic. That was what people bought into, because, he's saying, hey, I'm just playing bad guy wrestler. It wasn't a promo. It was, well, hey, I was just playing. It's a play, right? No, it's not. It's not a play to me. Come on, man. Why'd you have to hurt me? He's still, and nobody does that anymore because they don't know how. Plus the world, and it's been exposed so much. And it's, I don't know how you put it, the toothpaste back in the tube, but I think it would be a lot more interesting if people did continue the work instead of going on like everything's, no, that's what, I mean, that was exceptional back then.
And Lawler has a great story. He was saying that Dave Letterman said to him when they were filming Man on the Moon with Jim Carrey, he said, we call you the famous guy from the famous show, meaning that Lawler and Kaufman made Letterman famous.
Yes.
He said that was the episode that launched him. And even when Letterman retires, he mentioned Andy Kaufman's his favorite guest, and like that was one of his favorite moments. It's one of the top moments ever in the history of TV. So even Letterman, who's obviously a huge star, acknowledges like that show may be famous. Lawler and Kaufman.
Well, yeah, because Dave understands what they did, and I mean, I remember watching it the next night, wherever we were, but it seemed like he was hot about it, and he said something about, I think we got took in by a Saturday morning wrestling show and all that stuff, for those of you that watched it last night or whatever. But Lawler and Kaufman were big stars. Jerry Lawler was a big star in Memphis. I mean, he had people coming out to see him, like Elvis in the King. People would come out to see Elvis, yes. But what I'm saying is, Lawler had drawing power. Lawler was that guy, and he knew it. They knew it. Memphis knew it, and he was a star, so he knew how to be a star. And then Kaufman came in, and they understood showbiz in Memphis. They really did, and that's the crazy part about it, because they do the glitz and the showbiz, but they do the realism too, which was kind of made it even more awesome, I think, because instead of just going out there and doing all the showbiz and the gaga, they threw fire that actually hit people in the face. They would take that big bump on the table. They were one of the early guys. So Andy Kaufman loved it. And he's talked about wrestling all the time. His favorite guy was Buddy Rogers. And he really, so he was a fan. He understood this was showbiz, and he could see it. He knew it. He's watching it because that's what he wanted to do. And just, I thought I always like stuff like that. And why not?
Matty R., did any of the females that Kaufman wrestled fall in love with him for the night?
I believe so. I believe so. Yeah. I've seen some documentaries. I've read some stuff, but I don't know for a fact, obviously. But it just makes sense It makes sense. He's working everybody and everything all the time. Why wouldn't you? I mean,
Yeah.
they wanted to be next to him as much, if not more so, I think. Because he's this guy people are paying to see.
Yep.
And he wants to see you later on. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, of course.
Well, of course, that's what I mean. I mean, I would think, I'll certainly think.
Yes.
But anyway,
Andy told any woman in the audience if they could beat him, they could shave his head bald and they'd get to marry him.
yeah,
Great
right.
promo when he would say
Any
that. Yeah.
woman here, you
Yeah.
can marry me if you beat me,
Yep.
and you can shave my head, or you can shave my ass and I'll walk backwards. I don't care, whatever you want. But yeah,
A few years ago, I got to interview Bob Zamuda, which is awesome.
yeah,
Obviously, sometimes he played Tony Clifton too. He was his
right,
right-hand man, he was his best friend, he was his writer. He was actually promoting an Andy Kaufman book that he wrote with Andy's longtime girlfriend. So I was able to talk to him, but just about Andy and wrestling.
yeah.
He had the best, and if anybody wants to go back into the TMPT archives and listen to Bob Zamuda, just type in Bob Zamuda, it'll pop up. But he has a 22-minute answer about a question about Andy in Memphis. He just went on and on.
Awesome.
He laid out the whole story. I was like, that was
Yeah.
awesome. Like I didn't have to ask
Yeah.
I just said Andy Kaufman Memphis. And he went so one of the best answers I've ever gotten. I was like, oh my God, I think he answered it for over 20 minutes. Holy crap.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but that's storytelling 101. And if you get it, and if you have a good story, why wouldn't you want to share it? Why wouldn't you want to tell it? So I'm wondering what it was now, what the story was. What
He literally laid it out that Lawler slapped him. Lawler really broke his neck. He's keeping kayfabe a little bit. He wasn't saying that.
he's trying to campaign.
He's basically saying he didn't really like Lawler, trust Lawler. So he was going into the whole story of how it happened and like basically when he starts in Memphis and kind of like gets injured and the whole thing with the hospital and everything. So it was really a fun story. Bob's awesome. He's great storyteller.
Yeah. Well, that's we're missing great storytellers today. I think I'm always I'm always looking for a good story. Do you know who Neil deGrasse is? Neil Tyson deGrasse?
Yes.
Have you ever heard him?
Yes. Got a great voice.
Very good voice, but he also tells some good stories to make his point. And I just got into listening to him, on Joe Rogan not too long ago.
Oh, I didn't realize he was on with them. Oh, awesome.
Well, it's been a while, but we listened when we went to Charleston. So I was listening to it, and I was listening to him tell a story and explain things and how they interacted. And once again, it's the same thing when you cut a promo here on this shit. Why would people want to stop and listen to you? Obviously, there's a few people stopping and listening to us right now, but we don't know how many. So I'm just playing to you guys, and Jason, this is all for you.
Yes. Did Kaufman ever come to shows as Tony Clifton?
No, not that I saw, but that would have been great.
He probably should have. Yeah,
awesome. He should have. Yeah, I think that would have been great. Yeah, one of the best ribs. I read, and I'm sure I know you know the story where Andy gets the part, but then he wants to get a part for Tony Clifton, and he shows up the next day and he's on vacation. Who does that? It gets thrown out with the two hookers drinking alcohol.
Yep.
Dr. Jerry Graham, we don't have characters like that anymore. So
yeah. Matty R wants to know, was Kaufman's interpretation of the Memphis accent 100% accurate?
Well, there are some people that have that pronounced accent. I will tell you, there's a few. There are. So
Barbara says he was showing Southerners how to use the soap and toilet paper, and those also.
Well, thanks to Andy, some people are living a better life today than they were, and but they need reminding on occasion.
I love that soap and those promos pumping it up. Who knew though at that time that was Jerry Lawler's backyard that he's doing those promos in? It's pretty awesome.
yeah. So that think how much fun those guys were having too. Honest to God. Think how much fun those promos were. Lawler's having just as much putting them together. That's why I think a lot of us think about the past because that was a really good time.
Tony Clifton delivered some of the funniest insults I've ever heard to Spike.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah, yeah, he did. But my favorite time was when he'd come out and do the late show with David Letterman, and he kind of fade off singing, and and they stop playing, and it's like la di da do, or something like that, and everybody kind of stops and gets really uncomfortable. And he goes and sits next to Dave, and he doesn't put anything over. I mean, he's just having
Yeah.
he's just having fun for the night, and Dave's like, oh hell, but Dave's having fun too. You know what I mean? I think because he knows he gets it.
Bubba, Pensacola in the house.
Pensacola, man, I think of Pensacola on a daily basis for an FYI.
Brendan, do you think Andy Kaufman will ever go into the WWE Hall of Fame? He was sports entertainment before it was even thought of.
Yeah, I do. I think he will. Eventually, there'll be someone because look, the dark side of the ring and now the territories and stuff. People, I think on Vice, if you're flipping towards that and you see Andy Kaufman, like the Lawler deal or something, and talk about Andy Kaufman, that soundbite, and I don't know. I think so. I think he deserves it because
So,
because of the attention he's getting right now again too.
so Jarrett Lawler said, and obviously Triple H is in charge now. He said Triple H said to him, Andy Kaufman was like WWF sports entertainer
Yes.
before you realize he's a WWF sports entertainer. He said he kind of like set it off and set it in motion. He's the guy
Right.
that kind of opened it up. So to me, it was one of the things where Vince saw like his dad screwed up because he should have went to WWF and could have worked for Vince McMahon Sr.
Yeah.
Instead, Bill Apter hooked him up with Jerry Lawler because Vince McMahon Sr. turned him down. He was nice about it, but he turned him down and said no because they're going to think we're all actors. Not going to do that. So Vince McMahon, who was obviously working for his dad at that point, was like, "Oh, we could have had him." And
Right.
then,
Right.
Hogan does Rocky. I'll let him go do Rocky. No, we're going to bring him back. So
Yeah.
Vince is probably in his head thinking, "Oh, Andy Kaufman, that guy is like the perfect Vince Jr. Of course, the perfect WWF like sports entertainer kind of guy."
Yeah, I agree. And he certainly, again, not just in wrestling, he transcended that one of TV's famous moments and made David Letterman famous and all that stuff. So why he certainly has the credentials to get in the Hall of Fame, but you know, he really did. I think he did a great job. Lawler got booked by Paul Bosch. We talked about this. I know I said this before, but got called from different promoters and because he slapped Lawler because they bought into it. So they did something right. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, Jerry Jarrett on the show has a great story. He says Watts called him up and he didn't know what to say to Watts. Like Watts is saying to him that it's like it's awesome. You put him in his spot and like he's like, do I tell him? Do I not tell him? And Lawler's like, don't say anything. So he's like, thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. Bye. So and then he said to Lawler, he goes, what a mark.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Those guys were great. Yeah. Those guys were great. And nobody can comprehend that today. I'll stop saying that. But anyway, yeah, it was great. It really was. It was very great.
Real pile driver. I don't know if it was real, but he was in the hospital for
well,
a
it
few
was
days.
It was a pile driver. It was two of them. And by God, he broke his Fernum Hebe Halaga back there in the Hebeshish. So he was messed up for a long time.
Ego says cheers to all from Memphis. All right. Nice.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. Memphis could be a really good place to work, and it could be a really bad place to work. And I mean, it had that vibe about it, and still that Wild West feel to it. The last time I was there, and I don't know if you can ever duplicate that. I don't know if you can ever do that again. I mean, it was a different style or a different way of building the stuff. So Andy Kaufman, I don't know if he could, no, he couldn't do what he was doing today because everybody'd blow it.
Andy told Memphis women to shave their armpits. Very well.
They should have. That was just a public service announcement. Yeah, he did. Oh, did he? I didn't know. I
Yeah,
didn't
I'd
know.
love to see that.
Yeah, I'd love to see it too. I didn't see it when I was there, but could have been. They could have said, "Hey, yeah, why don't you be Tony Clifton this week?" And he would have said, "Sure."
B40 says, do you think with Triple H running things, obviously we've mentioned Andy Kaufman in the Hall of Fame. Do you think other Southern Hall of Famers like Tommy Rich will get in the Hall of Fame?
Well, I don't know, but I know Hunter does respect the old school guys, and I got to tell you, I think Tommy does belong in the Hall of Fame. Just look, man, he was a superstar in TBS early '80s, and on every cover of the magazines out there, wrestling magazines had him. So yeah, I definitely think he belongs.
Patty and Double M's. Andy could do promos with the best in the territory. I totally
Yes,
agree.
he could do if he could do promos with anybody, but if you saw his act, you'd understand why, because he would bring it right down to the level of the murmuring in the crowd, the uncomfortableness that everyone felt, and the squirming. And then finally, if everybody wasn't doing it, he'd wait to the last person, I guess. But
Yeah, he was trying to get everybody to
ev-
leave, which is so weird.
everybody.
Yeah.
No, no. He's just trying to make them to. I don't know what he was trying to prove, but to me that's intriguing.
I could
Because
see him and Zamuda having a bet like, you can't get everybody to leave.
right.
I can get everybody to leave.
Yeah, I could. I can too. Yeah, that's perfect. But that not everybody understands that. That's not everybody's form of entertainment. Uh, Doctor Hook and the Medicine Show. I want to see my picture on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Right? It was Doctor Hook and the Medicine Show. Do you know these guys?
No.
You heard the song.
Yeah, sounds very familiar. Yeah.
What? Okay, I want to get a picture on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Well, they're a one-hit wonder, and it's no wonder they're a one-hit wonder. So I went down the rabbit hole on YouTube, and I'm watching these guys, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I enjoy watching bad stuff. I enjoy watching these guys try to be really cool, but it ain't. It's a different level. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So at the same time, it's funny, it's intriguing. They don't play bad music, but it ain't exactly great music. It was kind of a gimmick thing. I want to see my picture on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Well, it's the same thing with Andy Kaufman. I think he was kind of that Dr. Hook in the Medicine Show, but with talent. He knew he could make you uncomfortable until now I'm ready to break out the real stuff on you. Dr. Hook couldn't break out the real stuff because they didn't know really how to play rock and roll. They were gimmicks, and they would play these songs, but they weren't catchy. They were just kind of like these stupid, nothing that really was mainstream. But Andy Kaufman will get to that point where you wonder what band you're watching, wonder what you're going to do here next, and wonder what they're thinking, wonder what this guy, what the hell are they playing? Boo, get off the stage. And then he breaks out the bongos, he breaks out the Elvis, and he blows everybody away. You know what I mean? So he takes them down and he brings them right back up. And that's an art. That's talent to me.
Yes.
That's talent to me.
I love how he bombed on SNL to get on the show, on purpose, and they had no idea what they're like. Oh,
No,
this guy, he's
you seen his
totally messing
audition
with them.
tape?
Yeah. Yes.
MacArthur's Park.
Yes.
And he just recites twice. And I'm thinking he's just like, come here. And they don't have a clue. And that's okay because they think he's being
and then they bring him every few weeks. They would bring him on the show because they loved him so much. But they didn't realize till way after that he was messing with them. He didn't really want to be on the cast.
Yeah. But think about that. I don't want to be on your cast, but you can't help but put me on there.
Yes. Yep.
So think of where his mind is at right now when he's going through these manipulations, because he does have talent and they do want him on the stage because of that, but they didn't like his audition because he's kind of whack or whatever it is. I don't know, but he was a unique guy. I don't think we'll ever see one like him again. That's for sure.
Definitely not. Bo wants to know, Doc, how do you stay so upbeat, positive, and happy each day?
I eat my vegetables every single day, morning, noon, and night, and uh, I make sure I take 3 walks around the block. Usually at 3 in the morning, I wake up at 3 to take 3 walks around the block. Um, then I walk on my hands for about a mile. And then I come back and rejuvenate myself with pure spring water. You know he's being a sarcastic son of a bitch right there, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
of
okay,
course.
cool.
Of
And you know I'm
course.
being a sarcastic son of a bitch right back, and I'm just making up
Yes.
stuff because it's like,
Yes.
I am positive and I am upbeat and more happier today than I've ever been in my life, and I think everybody else should be too. That's what I got for you, Mr. King of Kingsport.
Yes.
Yeah.
Barbara was saying he did perform the Mighty Mouse song on SNL. He was on there a bunch, actually. Did the
Yeah.
intergender wrestling champion on there? He was on there a few times. I mean, they brought him in almost like every week for a while. I mean, they were kind of obsessed with him for a little bit, as they
Well,
should have been. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, I think I don't know what he was doing in the club back then, but he, uh, he was obviously because that's where they found their talent, right? Going the improv and comedy store in L.A. and stuff, right? So I mean, I'm sure they go all over the country, but
Yeah.
so he was turning out in those places, and so they knew about him, and I think it was. I don't think you can teach that. It's got to be inside too. But I've seen some backstage stuff where the real life of Andy Kaufman or the real Andy Kaufman, whatever it is. And he's exhausted. I mean, he's living life, but he's working the whole time until they finally say, "All right, man, I'm tired. I'm ready to go home." So he's like everybody else. Everybody at least has to recharge the batteries now and then. And so as crazy as he was, they knew he was talented, but I think he also knew it was time to relax when he had time to relax.
Bo was saying Andy knew the art of working.
Yeah, he did. And so there's a lot of people who know the art of working. Just I don't know too many
That can execute it, like
that
he's
can
saying.
execute it. Thank you. That know how to actually do it. So nobody's fault. You just have to work at it, and that's. I think I don't know. But Andy did know. I don't know what else to tell you about that.
Mr. Majestic, I used to watch Memphis Wrestling CWA every Saturday night, 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. Superstars of Wrestling, hosted by the late Joe Pedicino and Bonnie Blackstone. Nice.
That was a good show.
Nice. Now, interesting part with Kaufman that I just was like surprised by because I didn't know this. So at the end, Jerry Lawler saying that like when 1982 is over and like 83 is going on, his accountant's like, you have a problem with your books. And then he's like, what? He's like, you have more money than you supposedly gave out. Like, it's not, it doesn't make sense. They found out Kaufman never cashed the checks. So Kaufman's family showed Lawler, and he's Jerry. Funny, Jerry says, I wish I had the checks to be worth like a
I'll be
ton of
right
money.
back. Hold on.
Yep.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah. All right, that time we'll be right back. Hopefully maybe he's getting one of those Andy Kaufman checks that Jerry Jarrett never got. Sorry about that. That Jerry Jarrett never had cash, so maybe he's getting those checks. I don't know. Interesting, but maybe Dr. Tom's got something in the hopper. Maybe he has some memorabilia that he's going to find. I don't know what he's looking for here, but with Lawler and Kaufman, they had a bunch of matches. 1982 and then even into 1983, but 1982, 4-5, April 5th, 1982 was the most famous one. Barbara wants to know if Triple H is calling. It's possible. I've never seen him run that fast. It could have been Triple H. It might have been his brother Bruce. You never know. It might have been brother Brucey giving him a call. Patty saying, yeah, he never cashed the checks. He did it for the love of it and never for the money. Yes, I agree. That was pretty awesome that you find out that he didn't really want to do it for the money. He really just loved the business. He was obsessed with it. I just saw on Twitter Richard Land, who's a great historian. He had just posted an old interview with Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman talks about his love of Buddy Rogers. So good stuff there.
My fire alarm went off.
It
There's no
did,
fire.
really.
Yeah, there's no fire. Okay.
Ibsen said, bathroom break. Barbara says you're doing a run in to save Flair. Did Triple H call you? Bo says,
no. Oh, my fire alarm was going off, man. I'm trying to
Bo says, I've known you for 34 years. I've never seen him run that fast. Nice.
That's horrible.
So we were just saying it, and Patty was saying it too. He did it for the love of the game. He never cashed the check. So that's why the books were off, because somebody wasn't cashed the check. It was Andy Kaufman. Right. So Kaufman's family said, I don't know what happened to it, but they had the checks. He never cashed them.
Right. Yeah, I'd heard that too. So, how cool is that? So he got to do what he wanted to do, and so did Lawler. I mean, I think it was a cool moment for wrestling and Lawler.
R.I.P. way too soon, Andy Kaufman, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen the movie Man in the Moon?
Yeah, it's actually pretty sad.
It is. Yeah, it really is, because you stop and think about a guy who's doing just that. What those people did to him down in Colombia, wherever it was, he was doing the same sham and scam.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. That was ironic to me. But hope, I guess, hope and faith could be a powerful thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
B40 says, I'm sure Jerry passed that extra money along to the boys. LOL.
I don't know. I don't know either.
Let's go to just a bunch of random questions as we wrap it up here. Barbara wants to know, why are neck injuries so common, and what can they do to be prevented nowadays?
Well, falling on your back properly would help prevent it. But no matter what, when you're falling down, you're going to get injured. And to try to minimize it, at least tuck your chin and attack them out with your hands and fall straight back can help prevent neck injuries. But also strengthening the neck, doing some bridges and working in the gym on your neck as well. But I don't know if they can all be eliminated or prevented, because you're falling down. It's contact no matter what. But you can minimize it, I think. I know you can minimize it by slapping the mat hard and lighting flat.
JR thinks very highly of Bill Watts as a booker, because if you're in a bar and you lose a fight, he would get fired. What are your thoughts on Watts?
I certainly I can understand the line of thought. I do. And for back then, in that era, there wasn't the MMA fights, there wasn't the UFC and stuff. It was professional wrestling in that town, especially in Louisiana towns. If you had some fella Cajun from Louisiana knock out one of your guys, and he goes around telling everybody, what's that say about your guys? Why aren't you, giving him a wrestling match? Why aren't you, putting him in there? So if you're advertising and promoting the baddest, biggest dudes around, they get in the bar fight and lose, makes you a liar. So I can understand the train of thought, and especially back then.
Do executives get paid better than the wrestlers?
Yes. Yes, they do. They certainly do.
Unless maybe you're like Stone Cold Steve Austin or Hulk Hogan or Brock Lesnar, then maybe not. But other than that, yeah, I would imagine.
Well, yeah, in general, yes.
What is your opinion on female wrestling today?
I think it's great, and I think it's wonderful that women have the opportunity to show they can wrestle, be athletic, and fight. Not to knock. Yeah, I think it's great.
Some women's wrestling can't get into, but some of them are amazing. Bianca Belair is great.
Well, that's what I mean. If you okay, if you're looking for it, to see the women go at it and have passion and feel the same way when the guys go in a match, and they have a really good match, and add the sizzle to all that. Uh, it's great, and that's more what it is today. Back when the Diva era was in tune and they had the pillow fights, wasn't the greatest era for the women, for the female wrestling back then, in my opinion. Some people liked this, other people didn't. But you have women out there like a Paige and Natty Neidhart, Becky Lynch,
Yep.
Ronda Rousey,
Sasha Banks,
Sasha, Naomi. I don't know everybody's name, but I know the women if I see them. So I think they respect the working part of this, because they understand they're athletic and they're not. I don't think they would do pillow fights. I don't think they'd want to do pillow fights. That doesn't suit them. So they're doing a really good job doing that, and I like that part.
One final question for Ibsen. Piper would tell wrestlers that he loved the Portland territory. Did you wrestle there? Yes, of course.
Yes, I did. And I did love the Portland territory. It was a great place to be. It was a great place to work. It was a great place to have fun. It was a great place for a lot of guys. It really was.
You never wrestled Piper, did you?
No, I did not.
What a shame.
Yeah. But Portland was. It really was. I can see how Roddy fell in love with it and fell in love with his wife there. And yeah, it's a nice place to be.
Barbara says, without a doubt, Andy could have used Dr. Tom's wrestling book, Working Together. Look at that. Perfect.
Thank you, Barbara.
Advice, suggestions, and stories up to aspiring pro. Get to the next level. Working to get the book.
Check out jpwrestlingacademy.com. The book is on the front page. Well, actually, you have to click on the training gimmick on top. Right there on the front page. You click it. You can order it. That's jpwrestlingacademy.com.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out the website, tmptempire.com. Of course, you can follow Dr. Tom on Twitter at Dr. Tom Prichard, and go to Pro Wrestling Tees, ProWrestlingTees.com. Visit the JPWA store or the Dr. Tom store. Dr. Tom, what else you got going on? Anything?
Yeah, actually we do. This weekend's Alabama versus Tennessee. You do know that, right?
Ooh,
okay.
Both 5-0, right?
Right.
Wow.
You're asking me. I just know that because I live in Knoxville is my point, and Knoxville is getting really geared up for this game. So
yeah, big time.
Yeah. Hey, really, I do want to mention on October 22nd, Joe Kazana Promotions in Decatur, Tennessee. If anybody's listening close by, or even if you're not close by, come on out and check out JCP in Decatur. And then the next weekend on October 28th and 29th, I'm in Indianapolis for it's Fort Wayne, not Indianapolis. Let me make that straight again. Fort Wayne, Indiana. Gosh, it's Heroes and Legends. So I'm doing a seminar on Saturday morning too. So that's what I have going on for the next month.
Are you a Crimson Tide fan? No, your wife is, right?
Yes, she is.
You're a Tennessee.
Well, wait just a minute.
Oh.
Mostly, I'm a daggum Tennessee fan when they're not playing Alabama. But this weekend and I lived in Alabama, so I actually like Alabama. And I have some Nick Saban quotes up as well. I believe Nick Saban's a smart guy.
Nice.
No matter what you think, he's done a pretty damn good job.
Oh my God, unbelievable! Yeah. What a resume. But thank you everybody out there for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little Take It to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. We'll see you.